Hello and welcome to another edition of the Second String. I'm your host, Nate, and joining me today is Alex, unironically thinks The Phantom Menace is the best Star Wars movie, Fernando.
Where do you come up with these names, Nate?
I came up with that one today.
Wow, well, you need some more work.
It's perfect as it is. Well, regardless of my names or not naming skills, we're going to have a great day to talk about. It was an excellent week of college football. We had some great games. We had Nebraska win, so we're not going to be too upset.
Hey,
just
it's always good when the
upset.
Huskers win.
We're not going to complain too hard. We're going to do our normal things. First, we're going to talk about the games left from last week, just in general, that we thought were very interesting, had some stuff to go around. Then we're going to talk about the Nebraska game and our win over Rutgers. Then we're going to talk about the game we're playing this next week. Then we're going to talk about some games that are coming up. And then, if we have some time, we'll get a little bit more some extra sports news, some NFL, NBA, whatever we kind of feel like talking about.
So to be clear, we got a lot of games to talk about.
We do have a lot of games to talk about, though.
All right. Well, let's get it started. I want to definitely start with Penn State at Iowa. Easily my game of the week. Iowa almost pulled the upset at home. For some reason, they always play well with those big teams and high rankers coming into the Kinnick Stadium. Penn State kind of on the ropes, had to win it last second, walk-off touchdown, if you will. McSorley and the Nittany Lion offense played really well, but Iowa just kind of stuck with them the entire game. I don't know. Nate, what do you think?
For this game, I thought it was kind of a tale of two stories. One is that Penn State's offense is absolutely amazing. Now, I know I say that they only had 21 points, but Saquon Barkley is the man.
Oh, my God. He's the man, the myth, and the legend, all wrapped into one little dude just running around everybody.
I was going to call him the Manimal, and I know I just did.
Okay, again, with the names, Nate.
See, I'm good at this.
But, no, seriously, though. Barkley, 28 carries, 211 rushing yards, and a touchdown. And then he added 12 receptions for another 94 yards. Over 300 all-purpose yards and some fantastic plays. The one where he leaped over the Iowa defender and totally made him whiff, by far my favorite moment of the night.
It was just an incredible performance from him. I know after dinner I had so many people come up and be like, Saquon Barkley, that guy's the Heisman. That guy is the Heisman winner. And it's hard to argue with him. I always go back to that play towards the end of the game on that last-minute drive where he just caught it and then just kind of stood for a second and completely juked out the defender and then ran for 10
a little
more
bit.
yards.
I mean, it looked like he was standing. He honestly just stood there for a moment, waited for the linebacker to make a move, and then Barkley's like, I'm going to run around you now. And little dip with the shoulder, and he's gone.
It's when you have a man as talented as him, it's hard to lose football games, even with the amount of adversity that they had. And that's really the mark of the good team. It's when Iowa goes up 19-12 or 19-14, and you can say, all right, guys, we got this. We have probably the best offensive player in football. We have a great quarterback. We have a good offensive line. We have some decent receivers. We will go down and we will score, and they did on the last second of the game.
Yeah, when they wanted it, they could go get it against Iowa. They had a ridiculous amount of yards. Iowa's defense got gashed, but still, again, held it close for most of the game, which is what just surprised me. They got gashed for 284 through the air and almost 295 on the ground.
I mean, that's 500 yards. They limited them to 21 points.
That's very impressive with Iowa's defense. So definitely don't want to take anything away from them. Again, just showing up in those big games at home for Iowa. I don't know how they do it because they honestly look so mediocre in so many other games. I mean, that one against Iowa State, I know it's a rivalry game, but Iowa State's not a team that you should always be taking to overtime almost every year that you play them. And didn't look overly impressive in their other wins. Solid, but nothing great. But then to come out against a number 4 team in the nation and really hold your own on your home turf, that was impressive to me. 12 points in the fourth quarter, about pulled off the victory.
I think it comes down to just a couple things. One of the major ones is just good coaching. Kirk Ferentz is a good coach. I don't know if he's a great coach, but he is certainly a good coach. He knows how to use his players. You know, they don't have the greatest of talents there in Iowa City, but he knows how to develop. He knows how to use his players, and he gets them to buy into his scheme, which is a fairly effective scheme, especially on the defensive side. They have some amazing players. Josie Jewell, I know everybody likes to mentioned the play where he got juked out by Saquon, but there was a few times where he just kind of latched onto Barkley and said, "Nope, I'm tackling you. You're going down." And
by far one of the best linebackers in the nation that I've seen thus far this season. And yeah, you're right. If he grabs a hold of you, there's not too much you can do. And Nate Stanley, not an overly impressive quarterback, but just consistent and takes care of the ball.
I was actually really impressed by Stanley this last game. I wasn't super high on him coming into the season. You can listen to our last couple of shows. I was basically saying he's serviceable but not good, but I thought he was actually pretty good. 13 for 22, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And I wonder how much of that is the Penn State defense is not as aggressive as you would like. But I think Nathan Stanley really, he's poised, like you said. He's poised in the pocket. I called him a statue earlier in the year, but I don't think that's quite applicable. I think he knows that he's limited in his mobility, so he knows when to get the ball out.
Yeah, he makes smart throws, though. That's the difference. I mean, just comparing him to Tanner Leaks, that's our quarterback here in Nebraska and somebody we always make a lot of comparisons to. He just makes a lot smarter throws that I've seen thus far this season. So I just want to give him his credit. He played really well against a very tough defense in Penn State. They love to get after the quarterback. They ended with 7 tackles for loss still and a sack, so they still were bringing the heat on Stanley, but just held his own really well and kept Iowa in this game.
Yeah, Akram Wadley, I know he's kind of overshadowed by Barkley, but also a fantastic runner. 80 yards on the ground and a touchdown, 75 yards in the air and a touchdown.
Yeah, led Iowa in receiving. He's a great threat out of the backfield, both running the ball and just catching some passes out of the backfield and letting him break loose.
I mean, he's the type of, if Saquon Barkley wasn't so good, he's the type of guy we would be talking about and we would be gushing about. And I think both of them are going to make some noise, and I think both of these teams are going to make some noise. I think Iowa is a pretty dang good team.
Yeah, I hate to say it, obviously, but no, they look really good, and arguably, I think, 2 of the best running backs in the conference right here.
Oh, for sure.
That we got to watch here on Saturday night.
A lot of good backs in the Big Ten, but these 2 are probably the best.
I would definitely say so.
All right, let's move on to a game that made me sad, made me not happy.
The pokes, Nate, the pokes.
No, it can't do this to me, Oklahoma State. TCU played the Oklahoma State Cowboys and took the victory, 44 for the Horned Frogs, 31 for the Cowboys. Alex?
Very impressive showing by the Horned Frogs. Early in the year, they haven't played a whole lot of competition. Coming into this game, you heard a lot about their dynamic offense, as you do with every Big 12 team, but their numbers on defense looked pretty surprising. They were pretty solid on defense. They haven't given up a lot of points. So you're like, oh, running against the buzzsaw that is Oklahoma State for offense. I mean, Mason Rudolph to James Washington, what else do you need? But TCU did really well. Again, gave up 34 points, 14 in the fourth quarter. A little bit late, but caused 2 picks on Mason Rudolph, who's always very careful with the ball. And again, just really caused some havoc up front. They got to him a few times. Let's look at how many tackles for loss they had. I have, 6 tackles for loss and 3 sacks in this game.
It was a tale of 2 things for the Cowboys, in my opinion.
2 things like the last game?
2 things like the last game. I like the number 2. It's a good, easy, low number. I can remember 2 things. Okay, so first things first, I didn't like the play calling for Mike Gundy in this game. I thought it was weak. One of the big ones, I was rewatching a few of the highlights on YouTube, and one of the big ones that was kind of made fun of around the sphere was the trick play to end the game. Oklahoma State, they came back. They were down 40 to 17 or something like that. Scored a couple touchdowns, and then they just get the ball with a few minutes to go. I mean, not much of a chance, but they had some. And they just gashed down the field in like a minute. Mason Rudolph throws some quick strikes to James Washington. And then they run this really, really weird wide receiver pass. The one where you just quick throw it out to the wide receiver, and then the wide receiver chucks it to the other guy.
Yes.
They tried to run that, and it was very poorly. It was a very poor play call. It was just kind of like, Gundy, what are you doing? And second, the Oklahoma State offensive line just looked poor, and it's kind of been one of their problems for a few years now. They just couldn't quite get the push needed. That's where two of Rudolph's turnovers went to the fumble because he had to peel out of the pocket real early and just didn't see the guy on the backside. And one of the interceptions was just because he got blown up from the inside and had to it was one of those interceptions where we got hit and the defensive lineman just kind of grabbed it.
Yeah. Again, though, you don't want to take anything away from TCU's defense. They played really well. Again, I mentioned the 3 sacks. You mentioned the fumble, 4 total turnovers in this game. They really brought it to with the Cowboys at home, too, in Boone Pickens Stadium.
And it's not against it. Darius Anderson had an amazing game, 26 carries for 160 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kenny Hill, I think a lot of people see him as a joke, but I thought he played at least fairly well.
Oh, his 67% completion rating, 1 TD, 1 pick, but 228 yards, managed the game well. And again, I think just holding on to the ball, he had 15 rush yards in the game, so scrambled a little bit, kept away from a few sacks, keeping it on his feet. But just, I don't know, watch out for this TCU team in the Big 12. They could challenge Oklahoma a little bit.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I certainly don't think Oklahoma is bulletproof. I think TCU has as good a shot as any to take the Big 12. It'll be a very, very entertaining race to see them and Oklahoma State still in it and Oklahoma.
Yeah, kind of the 3, I would say those 3 teams are definitely the top of the Big 12. And TCU moving up to 9 in the rankings now, top 10.
They deserve it.
I think so, too. They're looking good under Gary Patterson again. Again, they always have kind of those rebuilding years. Last year wasn't the best for them, but looking like a strong start after the first quarter of the season.
I mean, yeah, like we said, nothing to take away from TCU. They are fantastic.
First third, I guess.
They're a fantastic. Gary Patterson's a fantastic coach. He always has them ready to play, no matter what the talent level is of the team, no matter who they're playing. You always have to worry about Gary Patterson.
Definitely. Let's move on to one of the big upsets of the weekend. North Carolina State upsetting Florida State. It always seems like the Wolfpack have Florida State's number in this game. They've upset them a few times over the last decade or so. And just Ryan Finley looked fantastic in the game. 22 of 32, 230 and 2 touchdowns, no picks, holding the ball very well. And I think we were talking about it earlier before the show, but Florida State's offensive line, not good. Giving up 4 sacks to their freshman QB.
I have a question for you.
What you got?
Is this an upset? This is an honest question. Is this an upset?
I mean, ranking-wise, yes, because Florida State was ranked 12 going into the game. Yeah, they have a freshman quarterback, but they're still one of the most talented defenses and just overall talented teams out there. So I would say this is an upset. This is not a team that you expect to lose to NC State fairly consistently, especially at home.
Fair enough. The problems with Florida State is it's the offensive line. They're bad. They're not good. Blackman was scrambling. He was running for his life. I know somebody on Twitter said that the Florida State line looked like it couldn't defend a pack of squirrels coming through. But
nobody could defend that Louisville squirrel, though. They got the touchdown. Did you see him?
I like that video. That was a fun video. But
back to the touchdown.
Yeah, but back to this Florida State game. Their offensive line is just they're poor. They can't quite get it together. They can't protect their quarterback. It's part of the reason DeAndre Francois got hurt. I mean, Francois was battered last year. That was the common critique. Was basically, wow, how has Francois survived this year with a bad offensive line? And it seems like it's finally coming back to bite Florida State in the butt.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what happened to him in the first game with Alabama. It's part of the reason why he went down. A lot of hits, and then ultimately got injured with the leg. And it's tough to see. I mean, they couldn't establish a run game either. Akers only had 56 yards as the leading rusher. Again, Blackman just running for his life. Still played pretty well for his first start.
Blackman played pretty well for his first start. 278 yards, 1 touchdown. The offensive line just did not give him anything to work with. And for a person as skinny as Blackman, he's like 6'2", like 180.
Yeah, he's not very big.
He's a string bean. You kind of start to wonder.
Oh my gosh, your nicknames today.
That's a common nickname for people that
is,
are thin.
But like, okay.
He's a string bean, and don't do this to me, Alex. And one's got to wonder how long is he going to hold up under that offensive line. Do you think he's in real danger to get hurt? You think Jimbo Fisher needs to do something about this?
Well, I mean, very similar problem at Nebraska. I mean, Tanner Lee's a little bit bigger, but he's been getting hit constantly, and we can't really establish much of a run game. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I don't know what what the quick fix is with an offensive line. You got to get guys experience, and you just got to get them to communicate and move in on their blocks. If they're not going to communicate on the line, you're going to be having guys come free off the blitz, come free running through the line if someone misses a call, and that's when your quarterback gets hurt.
Echoing shades of Nebraska.
Yeah, for sure.
How about Bradley Chubb, though? Can you talk about an excellent game? Somebody who just showed up and said, yep, I'm here. I'm one of the best rushers in the ACC. Fear me.
Looked really good. I was impressed with him. He came away 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss for North Carolina State. Again, the entire defensive front was just manhandling that Florida State offensive line.
You could see
Chubb looked impressive, though.
You could see Chubb on those, and it goes back to the Florida State offensive line not being good. Is Chubb was looking to lay those hits. He wanted to make Blackman scared, and I don't think Blackman was shying away from it or anything. When you have a talented rusher like Chubb coming through, it starts to wear on you.
Definitely. I mean, he finished with 7 total tackles and 5 solo, too. So he wasn't just in the backfield on Blackman. He was getting to the running backs. He was getting out on the perimeter a little bit. Very impressive game from Chubb.
Yeah, punctuated it by spitting on Florida State's logo.
Oh, my gosh. That was definitely worse than the Baker Mayfield flag thing by far.
I might like it a little better, though.
Oh, my God. I don't know about that one. That was a little bit too much for me.
Now we're going to go to the second upset of the season. I say second in large-scale quotation marks because I don't know if this was an upset either.
No, I heard a quote from one of the announcers in this game, and I kind of liked it. It's basically the game to save the season with these two teams, UCLA at Stanford, both of them coming off some tough losses, and UCLA losing to Memphis, Stanford being upset by San Diego State, and not playing very well against South California before with the Trojans. Switching up at quarterback, KJ Costello comes in halfway through the game. Very impressive. I think Stanford's going in a new direction without Keller Christ behind center and KJ Costello taking over. I like it.
We said that Keller Christ wasn't get it done. I don't know if you said it, but I know I for sure said
I
that
definitely echoed that. But
that Keller Christ is just not the quarterback that's going to get you the wins you need. And
David Shaw must be listening to our show. That's the only explanation.
I told you before the show, David Shaw called me up and said, Nate, what are we going to do about this quarterback position? I said, you got to put KJ Costello in.
You didn't even know the name KJ Costello.
Yes, but that's irrelevant to this point that I'm trying to make.
Well, my game plan for Stanford worked out perfectly. You hand the ball to Bryce Love as many times as possible. That's what they did. Finishes with 30 carries, 263 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Phenomenal day running for Stanford. UCLA's defense not looking that impressive. And, I don't know, Bryce Love, good running back up in the Pacific Northwest.
He's a great running back in the Pacific Northwest. Might be a better pure runner than Christian McCaffrey.
Really?
I'd have to actually watch a little bit more game tape of both of them to make that, but just from the limited action I've seen of Bryce Love, I think he's got more power. I think he's got more speed. McCaffrey, I think, is an overall better player because he had that all-purpose. He's
the kick return, much better receiver out of the backfield. I could see that.
He's the much better player, but I think as a pure downfield, hand the ball, watch Love just truck through defenders, I think Bryce Love has McCaffrey beat.
I can see it. Looking over at UCLA, Josh Rosen, again, not a very solid game from him, but not impressive. 2 picks, 3 touchdowns, and then 480 yards through the air. So
he had 60 attempts.
Yeah, that is a lot of throws and a little bit of wear and tear in that arm, I'm sure. I mean, although you can't really blame UCLA, what other weapons do they have? The run game was okay. So Jambo finished with 100 yards and a touchdown. Had a big one for 49, so that was basically half of it right there. But otherwise, Stanford stuffed that run game pretty well. Gave up a lot through the air, obviously, but I don't know. Josh Rosen seems to be about the only weapon UCLA has.
Yeah, when you have to rely on Josh Rosen, Josh Rosen can definitely carry the game by himself, but when you can't really establish the run game super well like Stanford's able to do, the problem with Stanford was that they couldn't establish the passing game. They had Bryce Love, but they couldn't rely on anybody else.
It's kind of opposites on these two offenses.
And it seems like Stanford was able to figure out their problem before UCLA was able to figure out theirs.
Oh, definitely.
And I don't think either defense was particularly impressive. UCLA just continues to struggle under Jim Mora with playing just good defense. It's been a persistent problem with his coaching stint there.
Yeah, I just remember I thought it was interesting. Stanford's known for pretty solid defense, pretty low-scoring games throughout the years. And I remember tuning into this one. It was 6-3 Stanford at the time, so kind of early first quarter. And a couple drives in, we start getting a couple points, and then it just exploded. Stanford comes away with that 58-34 win. Looking very impressive. Hopefully getting their season back on track, maybe challenge Washington in a couple weeks.
We'll see. I think Washington's a superior team by a decent margin. But if KJ Costello can prove that he's the real deal going forward, because UCLA's defense is not impressive.
Oh, no. I mean, they're not one of the top quality defenses you're going to see in the Pac-12.
If Stanford can go and play at Colorado, I don't know if they play Colorado?
Stanford avoids Colorado from the South this year.
Okay.
They do have to play at Utah in a couple of weeks, but they get Oregon and Washington at home from the North.
Washington at home. That's kind of a game to pencil in. That might be
And that's mid-November, November 10th. That's going to be a good game. I'm waiting for that one.
Well, definitely pencil that one in. But good win for Stanford. Disappointing for UCLA because, they had conference championship aspirations this season with it being Rosen's last year. And it just seems like it's not going to pan out for them.
You think he's leaving?
Oh, yeah. No, he's leaving for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Let's go to our last game. Won't talk about it too much. Georgia took down Mississippi State 31-3.
Dig it. I don't want to talk about this one, Nate.
You said, I don't know, what's Mississippi State's fighting call?
Hail State.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, it did not. 31-3. Nick Fitzgerald and the Mississippi State Bulldog offense could not get anything going. Only 83 yards and 2 picks through the air from Fitzgerald. Not much on the ground. Georgia's defense, very impressive in this game.
They looked amazing, Georgia's defense. I don't know. It's not Alabama tier quality, obviously, but they felt very Alabama-esque. And I know that's kind of narratively cheating to say they look like an SEC team looks like Alabama.
They have Alabama's former DC as their head coach, Kirby Smart.
Yeah, you'd have to assume Kirby Smart wants to run his program like Alabama. Georgia looked pretty good. Jake Fromm making the strong case that even when Eason comes back, he should be the starter, and I think they probably should stick with Fromm. I think he looks good.
It's hard to say that you can just take over from Jacob Eason, a very established quarterback the last couple of years, playing very well. Fromm looked good, though. 9-12, didn't have a lot of opportunities to pass, but made the most of it. 201 yards on just 12 attempts and 9 completions, 2 TDs, took care of the ball well. No matter what, you just rely heavily on Nick Chubb, Sony Michel. That whole backfield is just phenomenal.
Yeah, they have a lot of good weapons on the ground. For Mississippi State, Nick Fitzgerald did not look good, which is sad because I really do like Nick Fitzgerald.
I know. Rough game for him. Coming off a big emotional win against LSU where they absolutely stomped the Tigers. So might be riding a little bit high into this game off of that win. Didn't pan out well for these guys. Fitzgerald, again, 83 yards through the air and 2 picks. Not very impressive. He had 47 on the ground, so did a little bit of damage. But still, nothing really could get established for Mississippi State and Dan Mullen's offense.
No, it was a weak game for the Bulldogs, the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Yeah, the other Bulldogs, UGA, they did pretty well.
Mississippi State's Bulldogs named Bully.
Bully?
Yes,
okay.
I learned that over the weekend.
All right, Bully and UGA.
All right, before we head on to the Husker game, is there any other game you want a quick hit?
You refused to talk about it last week, so I just want to bring it up real quick. The Texas A&M and Arkansas game, didn't get to really watch much of it, saw a lot of the highlights. Looks like a pretty good one going into overtime, a good rivalry down the SEC.
It's not a rivalry.
South. Oh, yes, it is. These two teams dislike each other with great passion. That's a rivalry.
Okay.
But, no, Kellen Mond improving a little bit maybe for Texas A&M. 2 TDs, 216, and only 1 pick.
I thought he looked pretty decent. I ended up seeing the first half of this game and a little bit, like the first minute or two of the third quarter. Texas A&M was down 21-7, like really early, and then just pulled back, and they were up 24-21 when I turned it off. And they just pulled it off. Texas A&M playing for Kevin Sumlin's job, and it seems like they're responding pretty well.
Yeah, the big thing too with Kellen Mond, 109 yards on the ground. So really torched Arkansas's defense in a number of ways.
Texas A&M really likes to do that read option. Trevor Knight did it a lot last year, and they did it a lot this year. Or they're doing it a lot this year too. Kellen Mond, he had that really long touchdown that was called back by incompetence of the NFL, the referees.
But I mean, the kick return too, just very good game overall for Texas A&M against a solid Arkansas team. I mean, Brett Bielema's teams are never overly impressive, but they're solid teams that could upset people on any given day.
Indeed. The quick hitter that I want to talk about is Oklahoma Baylor. Baylor looked like they actually had a competent team.
They had a football team this week. It was impressive.
It was nice. They look like they're going to beat Kansas at least.
Oh gosh, I hope so. But I mean, very impressive game from Zach Smith. That's one thing that I took away. 463 yards, 4 TDs. Really played well against a tough Sooner defense.
Yeah, it shows that Oklahoma isn't bulletproof. They're going to struggle. The Big 12 isn't going to be a cakewalk for the Sooners. They're not going to stroll through the Big 12 like we might thought they would have a couple weeks ago.
No, and again, this just kind of looks like a typical Big 12 game. High scoring, big plays, lots of yards in every direction. So a lot of big offenses. Baylor might be starting to gain some ground. Again, Zach Smith could be a name to watch going in through the rest of the season.
Yes. Now, well, let's move on. Let's talk about the Husker game for the week.
Oh, boy. Well, I'm glad that we got a win on homecoming. That was fun for me, and it's good. The Huskers have matched our flag football team in wins now.
Yes. Unfortunately, I like the day we can say, oh, we're better than the Huskers. We have more wins.
Well, we got a game tonight. Hopefully we can pull that out. But looking at the Husker game, 27-17 victory over Rutgers. As usual, not very impressive as we would hope, but got the job done. I think the big story of the game is the return of Devine Azigbo.
Is that what you're impressed by is?
Yeah, my two go. So if I had to pick a good thing, I know we'll kind of go through our good, expected, and bad. I'm gonna pick two players for my good: Devine Azigbo coming back, and Luke Gifford on the defensive side of the ball.
I thought both looked good. I think they're nice choices.
Azigbo coming back really gave a spark to the offense. He had 24 carries in the game, primarily coming in the second half. He didn't see much action in the first half. Came in second half of the finished with 101 yards, and really just had an extra step, helping the offensive line. I mean, I know he doesn't get a lot of blocks. Nobody really does for the Huskers, but Devine came in, paced the game really well. We ran the ball a lot more in the second half, which I was very happy to see. And then again, on the defensive side of the ball, I thought Luke Gifford played very well, making a lot of really good tackles, just at least containing to the outside too. He really looked good out on sideline to sideline, in my opinion.
Yeah, Gifford did look pretty good. I think he had 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and an interception near the end of the game. I think he's definitely our spark maker on defense. He's definitely been the guy on the whole defense that I've been the most impressed by. He's definitely the linebacker with the largest amount of quickness, with largest amount of lateral speed that I feel sticks with the run game, sticks with the passing game decently well. I think he just has everything. Devine Azigbo, I thought he looked pretty good. I've been worried about his ability to read holes, to read blocks.
Yes, understandable.
It's been the issue. I know a lot of people with a lot more football knowledge than we have said that the main reason he's been sitting out is the fact that he just struggles with finding the right blocks and the right holes. And I think today this game he really showed that if you just give him the ball, tell him to run forward, he can pick up 3, 4, 5 yards a pop.
Yeah, and I definitely, too, I don't want to take anything away from Mikhail Wilbon. He had 14 carries for 78 yards.
Was good.
Looked very good in the first half, averaging 5.6 a carry throughout the game. They had a couple big ones in the first half, finding a couple little holes, making some moves. I think our running back core, apart from Trey Bryant being injured right now, is looking fairly solid. Hopefully you can get those 3 guys running pretty soon.
I think we have a true platoon on our hands. If Trey Bryant was 100% healthy, I think he would be the guy that I would be comfortable giving 30 carries to.
He doesn't need 30 carries though. That's why we're in the spot.
That's what I'm saying. If he was healthy, he obviously cannot get 30 carries a game. We cannot give that to him for his sake. I mean, we don't want him to blow his knee out even more than it already has.
Yeah, for sure.
But Ezigbo, Wilbon, Jalen Bradley showed up for the first time this year, and I thought he didn't look amazing. I don't think really any running back would look amazing behind our offensive line, especially a true freshman.
Not bad, but I think he could definitely still use some work.
He's a freshman.
I know. I definitely don't want to take too much from him. Looked okay with his first carries, but had a tough time reading the holes, just kind of bumped his way in there. And, again, there's not a lot of holes or room with our offensive line. We'll get to that. I'm okay leaving him more on the bench. I mean, we kind of burned his red shirt already now, so
yeah.
I don't know about that. But I'm okay with him being our third, fourth running back down there. We have a lot of talent there now, it looks like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when Bryant comes back where we're going to stand carry-wise, because I think Ezigbo has earned a few more carries per game, and I think Wilbon has earned a few more carries per game, and I think Bryant deserves a bunch of carries per game. I mean, you got to put the best guy out there, obviously, but when Trey Bryant can't get all those carries, you got to spread them out, and I think we have a good group to spread them out too.
I definitely agree. That's they've been looking pretty good so far this season. So, Nate? What was your good thing that you saw this week, or what you liked the best?
I thought our continued defensive improvement was admirable.
Fun stat. Not the best stat, but Tanner Lee has given up more touchdowns than our defense has in the past 10 quarters.
Define fun.
I don't know. I agree with you, though. Definitely a good improvement on the defense. Continued is what we're looking for.
It's going to be a stepping stone.
Yes.
Listen, we're very young at a lot of positions, especially defensive backs.
With a new system as well.
With the new system, with new players, a lot of people are playing out of position. You think about Alex Davis, you think about Tyrell Ferguson, you think about Muhammad Berry. They're DNs. They're DNs that are playing outside linebacker.
Berry was recruited as a linebacker.
Was he recruited as a linebacker? Must have been...
one of the Ben Style, maybe.
Ben Style.
He looked okay.
Yeah.
I had to pull out my roster sheet to see when he jumped in, but really impressed with him just jumping in there. But again, overall defense looked pretty solid.
Like I said, it's a building block. The Davis twins are young, and I think they're continuously improving. Freedom Akamaladen's just a junior still. Yeah. He still has another year to improve.
Hoping to hear his name called a little bit more. I mean, I'm good friends with him, so I always like that aspect, but just haven't heard a lot of him yet this season. I don't know if it's more scheme or if he's just not quite getting into the system and not making the right moves. We'll see how that progresses.
We'll see with Freedom. He was another guy that I really hoped would take a step up this year, and I think he could still do that. We haven't given up on Freedom yet.
No, definitely not.
But the Davis twins, I think Mick Stoltenberg's actually a legitimate good nose tackle. I don't think he's great, but I think he's legitimately good. He plugs the holes. He stuffs the run. There was more than a few times when Rutgers ran straight at him, and he just pushed the center back and made a pile.
Oh, definitely. And having been in a class with Mick, he's more than capable of filling any hole possible. That is one big nose tackle. He is just a big guy. Looked very solid against the run. I think, again, overall, our team looked really, just defensively looked really solid. Holding Rutgers to 68 on the ground, I thought that was pretty impressive. Gus Edwards only had 58 yards. He was their lead back coming in. So,
yeah, it was a good performance. Not against the best competition, obviously, but we're improving. We'll see when we play good teams. We have Wisconsin in 2 weeks and Ohio State in 3.
Yeah.
Those will be the true tests. But as of right now, I think they are getting better. And that's, in a season like this, I think that's got to be what counts.
Oh, for sure. I'm going to switch over. We're going to go to what I expected out of this game. For what I expected, I think it's the lack of a passing game. It's hard to explain this one, but not just with Tanner Lee, but Stanley Morgan being injured, our receivers dropping a few passes. The tight ends have really been kind of frustrating me. I mean, 1 minute I want to cheer them on, the next minute I want to strangle them for their lack of blocking or their drops.
We'll talk about that in our line.
Okay, they can group in with the line.
Yeah, they're basically linemen.
All right, but just the lack of a passing game in this game against Rutgers, that's about what I expected. Tanner Lee, 50% completion rating. Again, not very good numbers. 109 yards through the air, 2 TDs and 2 picks. I will say Rutgers is ranked 34th in the nation right now for pass defense, giving up only 180 per game. So fairly solid pass defense. They held down Washington for a while. So, I mean, not the best competition, but not the worst by any means.
It's frustrating, I think, as a Nebraska fan to see the passing game struggle. Our receiver core is thinner than I thought.
Oh, definitely. I thought coming into this year would be good. I mean, we lost a couple with injury, Keenan Williams and Javion McQuitty. So we're like, okay, well, we still have DeMornay, we got JD, we got all these guys. And then you start looking out there like, okay, Stanley's injured. Or I haven't seen Reimers much. I don't know what the deal with his. He played a lot towards the end of last season, played a little bit in the first game against Arkansas State. I didn't see him.
We saw Gabe Ron out there a lot.
Gabe Ron caught a couple passes.
And listen, Gabe Ron, I'm sure he's a great dude, but he shouldn't be out there. In a perfect world with all the scholarship receivers we have, he shouldn't be out there playing.
That's fair. I mean, he's a scholarship receiver now, earning that from his walk-on. He earned a scholarship this summer. Very talented overall, but again, you're right. Just the lack of depth is kind of surprising now. We used to have a lot of wide receivers.
I mean, coming in from last year when we had so much depth in the wide receiver position.
And it's tough when you graduate 4 out of your top 5 pass catchers, but still, just injuries have been a very big issue. Losing a couple guys before the season.
The Stanley Morgan injury, it hurts bad.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get him back. Spielman, though, 5 catches, 46 yards, 1 TD. Again, nobody in the passing game really had a great day, but just solid.
It was as expected.
Yeah, as expected. That's the topic we're on. What about for you? What was your as expected this week?
My as expected was how we can't trust anybody on the Huskers team whose last name is Lee.
Oh gosh.
I only know 3 people who have had the last name Lee, and they've all made me sad.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Tanner Lee, I don't think this year is 100% his fault. Only about 75%.
I could agree with that. Looking at his numbers, he's only at 52.1 completion percentage, which honestly kind of lines up with his Tulane percentages. In 2014, 55.1.
It really is the fan base's fault, in my opinion.
Really?
I mean, it's not the fault that he's come in, he's thrown 9 picks in 4 games. That's obviously his fault. But the way
I'll take away a couple for the offensive line.
But the way we've responded to it, the way we've blown everything into proportion, it's made me open my eyes. I got caught up in it too. I don't think there's any denying that. I think you got caught up in it.
Oh yeah, a little bit. I've been frustrated with him, but taking a step back and look at it now, you're right. I mean, there's no reason to boo him when he goes on the field. He's still our quarterback.
That is some. I want to use some strong language. That's some bad stuff right there.
Yeah, that's just not.
Don't do that, students. No. If it was students, I was sitting right next to the band, so I barely could hear it.
Yeah.
But knock it off. There's no room in Memorial Stadium for booing the players.
No, that's not what Husker fans are about. We support our team no matter what. Yeah, he might not be our favorite player right now, but it's clear that Riley and company are going to stick with him. It's clear that he's our number 1 quarterback.
He's the guy for the rest of the season. Like it or not. Danny Langsdorff was asked if he's sticking with Lee, if Lee is the guy, and Danny Langsdorff said, yes, he's our guy. We're sticking with him. There's a big difference between quarterback 1 and quarterback 2, and I don't think it's worth dwelling on it. Would I like to see what Patrick O'Brien could do if he came in? I think I would. If he really is that bad, I think the fan base would like to see it. But
careful with your words there. I don't know if we'd like to see that bad. I mean,
I don't know if I would say like to see it, but
yeah, no, I feel you. It's definitely an issue that's gonna stick with us, just because I don't think the fans are gonna be any less relentless unless they see proof that Patrick O'Brien can't do this job. But it's clear Tanner Lee is our guy. We need to support him, and he's not gonna get better unless we do.
Yeah, I don't know. He might not get worse unless we do either, but it's up to him, and he struggles. He really struggles under pressure. I think that much is obvious. When he has no pressure, when the offensive line plays well, he hits the passes. He's accurate when he wants to be. and he can throw the ball well when he wants to be.
Yeah.
But he can't put it all together under pressure, and I think that's really what gets to him. His mechanics fall apart. He threw off that interception was off the back foot. His first one, not the pick six, but his first one.
Yep.
He got pressured and he stepped back and threw it off the back foot. Reminded me of a Taylor Martinez pass.
Yeah, a little bit. And again, too, definitely relates to the blocking. Definitely relates to his poor protection. But it's just sitting in the pocket so long and holding that ball. He gets tunnel vision. I saw him try to throw to double or triple coverage far too many times. I think at least 4 or 5 times in this game against Rutgers. And Rutgers, again, I mentioned, pretty good secondary. They stuck to our receivers pretty well throughout the game. I didn't see a whole lot of room for error with our quarterback play. And that's why you can't have it be throwing bad passes like they're into coverage. There were some drops, as there have been over the past few weeks, so that definitely needs to be addressed as well. Not everything with this offense, with the offensive struggles, is Tanner Lee's fault.
No, but not by a long shot.
Yeah.
And the other Lee that's disappointing me is Eric Lee Jr. He's improving too, and I don't want to bag on him too much, but he's clear. It's clear that the opposing offenses have singled out him as the guy that they want to throw to.
Yeah, they definitely want to attack him. Again, I think it's part of the scheme, but just playing so far off and giving a big cushion to his receivers gives up a lot of underneath, and then he slowly creeps up, and that's when they go over the top on him. Developing player, young guy, limited game action only this season.
I'm confident. He's a guy that can easily redeem himself once over and more.
I just want to mention this real quick. What did you think about the Aaron Williams getting targeting penalty?
Textbook. It was textbook. I didn't like it. He didn't do it maliciously, but he put his head down, and when you put your head down to tackle people, sometimes it happens.
Yeah, that's kind of that's the opinion I had on it too. Very textbook tackle, but very textbook.
You don't like it, you got to change the rule. That's the one of the thing. That's
one rule change I would propose. I know this is a bit off topic, but just with that targeting penalty, one rule change I would propose, or just adding a line into the rule. If the receiving player, the player that gets the hit on them, if they're the ones who duck down and they're the ones who put their head down, it's their fault for going in danger a little bit. I mean, they're the ones kind of lowering their head and putting that target out there. And sometimes the guys that's just physics, like the way you're tackling some guy or the angle you're coming in at. If they move their head, that's what you're going to hit.
It's a complex rule with a lot of very broad strokes to apply it to. I wouldn't be opposed to situations becoming a little bit more judgment call-y.
Yeah.
Like, remember the Nate Gary one from a few years ago? It's a rule that I think it's better there than not there, but it's clear with the current application that it's a little too broad. Aaron Williams, though, the way the rules are currently set up, it was textbook. Yep. Put his head down. That's what happens.
Yeah, definitely understandable.
Didn't do it maliciously. Aaron Williams, not a bad person. Just let his head down, kept his head down, tackled with bad form.
It's a tough tackle. It's a tough tackle to make regardless. So,
all right, we're spending a little too much time on targeting. Let's get into the bad. I think we both have the same one.
We have not deviated from last week. Offensive line, where are you?
I thought they looked better than last week. That's not
much of a compliment.
That's not much of a compliment, but they just continue to struggle against not good competition. Cole Conrad got replaced by Michael Decker, who I thought looked better. We'll have to see. Brennan James for redshirt freshman.
I think it's Hymus.
It's Hymus?
I think so. I've heard it so many different ways, but for the sake of argument, let's just go with Hymus.
Okay, Brennan Hymus. It's spelled like James.
It is. Maybe it's Jameis.
But Brennan Hymus, for a redshirt freshman, or not redshirt.
He's true freshman.
He's a true freshman. That's right. I forgot. Sorry about that.
Fifth true freshman all time to start offensive line for Nebraska.
That's crazy. I mean, it just shows our lack of depth.
Yeah, really. I mean, to be fair, our other two right tackles are hurt, but not a lot of depth on the offensive line, not a lot of experience, which is to be expected.
We have a decent amount of experience, honestly.
Not behind our starters, though.
No,
all their backups.
True, not behind our starters.
I want to say our backups have a combined maybe 3 starts.
True. It just frustrates me. I thought Hymus looked good for a freshman. I don't think he looked great overall, but for a true freshman first start, I think he looked fine.
Regardless, the rest of the line doesn't. They don't look any better.
Tanner Farmer disappoints me. Gerald Foster, I think, looks decent. I think he's the only guy that I think I consistently say he sometimes misses his assignments, but I think he hits them more often than not. Nick Gates continues to disappoint me.
Yeah, overall, we did better. Like you said, 197 rushing for Nebraska, so a little bit of improvement. But a lot of those yards came after contact or dragging guys with Devon Azigbo and Wilbon, kind of juking guys out.
It was a rough day for the offensive line, and it's just really hard to see where they get better.
I don't know what it is. And I don't know, too, like we mentioned the tight ends earlier. You wanted to group them in the offensive line. They do not look impressive blocking.
Hoppus and Ketter, they just don't get under people.
Way too high with their pad level.
Trey Foster last year was a good blocker.
Trey Foster and Sethan Carter are huge losses in the run game.
Bigger losses than we think. You just put them in there, and they would push people out of the way. Sam Cotton was a pretty decent blocker, too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, easily my
that's
least
another
disliked of all the Cottons. But
I like Ben Cotton.
Yeah, I don't know. I just overall just not a lot of great blocking, not a lot of communication. You can tell there's missed assignments. I was rewatching the game before the show a little bit, watching some highlights, and there were guys on a couple blitzes coming straight off the edge. Nobody picked him up, and then you see one of our offensive linemen blocking nobody. He's just standing there with air. It's like, okay, well, you need to get the guy next to you, and someone needs to shift down.
It's a conundrum that will be hard to solve, and even harder to solve now that we have a short week coming into our next game.
Short week on the road in a place that we lost to before at Illinois in Champaign. I don't like the looks of this game.
It reeks of us playing really badly, and I know that's a weird thing to say considering I don't think we've played good at all this year.
But worse than we have.
Worse
honestly.
than we might have. This reeks like Northern Illinois, and not just because of the teams are from the state.
Just we might have an issue with the state of Illinois.
Yeah, let's just never go there.
Or
again.
The state of Wisconsin,
so we're gonna
Ohio, and Iowa,
in a lot of places. So we play the Illinois, the Fighting Illini, 2-1, second in the Big Ten West. Their stats are fairly average.
No, they're not. They're bad. They're 120th in the nation in offense.
I'm trying to stay complimentary towards them.
I'm sorry, I'm not impressed with them. I watched them last week, or a week and a half ago, I guess, because they had a bye last week. I watched them a couple weeks ago against South Florida.
They did not look good in that game.
No, neither one of them really did. That was almost the most penalized game in college football history. That was fun to watch. But literally every single play had a flag. But no, Crouch has not been very impressive. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, only 328 yards through the air. Overall, I just haven't seen a lot from Illinois' offense that normally I would be scared about, but again, our defense is improving, so it's going to take some time.
I think the keys to this game will be stop the rushing game. That's kind of Illinois' only means of attack. Mike Epstein is, I wouldn't call him an amazing runner, but he will run if you let him. He has 3 touchdowns, 40 carries for 221 yards. It's going to be, I don't think Illinois impresses me on offense, but it's one of those games where, like the Northern Illinois game, where we said this shouldn't be too hard to stop Northern Illinois' offense.
This is a game that you need to win, that you should win if you're Nebraska. And I think you're kind of right. The run game for Illinois, but also the run game for Nebraska. Both sides, I think that's the main focus of the game.
You have to establish. We just yammered on for 10 minutes about the offensive line, but that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And like you said, they did improve last game. We had 197 rush yards. Looked impressive. Hopefully, I'm not sure if we'll get Trey Bryant back on this short week, but hopefully, again, Devine Azigbo, Mikhail Wilbon, 1-2 punch there.
Yeah, we just got to establish the run game, make Tanner Lee comfortable in the pocket, and then I think we can just easily outscore them. There were only 7-point favorites, but that's due to a couple factors, namely short week, Illinois coming off the bye at their place Friday night.
I don't know. Time of possession, if we can hold on to that ball a little bit longer than Illinois, I think we're okay in this game.
I think so too.
Just got to be consistent on offense. You can't have those dumb mistakes. You can't have those faulty drives.
This needs to be a building block game. We said, okay, we had a tough win against Rutgers where we struggled a little bit. Now let's go and let's take it against a team that's very similar to Rutgers, and let's win by a little more.
Yeah, just keep progressing. And again, the Huskers, big thing to remember, everything in the Big Ten is still out there.
Yeah.
1-0 in the conference. We have a couple of big games coming up, but they're at home, so we have a helpful advantage there. Being in Memorial Stadium, Wisconsin's a night game now. I'm pretty sure that Nebraska has the nation record right now for night game home win streak, so we'll knock on wood and keep that going.
Don't do this to me. Don't make me overlook this Illinois game.
No, I definitely don't want to. I mean, at no point should Nebraska ever overlook a team within the next 10 years.
Not since Northern Illinois.
No.
All right. So
hopefully good performance.
What's your score prediction?
I want to say kind of mid-30s to low 20s. Just I'm hoping we can pull out a 2-score, 10-point victory. So I'll go 34 to 24, 34 to 21.
I said 31-18.
Okay.
A little bit more than the Rutgers game.
Yep.
Around the same there. So let's go from that into some of the games for next week. Some of the interesting ones. Alex, what is your most interesting game next week?
Oh, man, there's a couple, but I think probably the best one is the game of the week, Clemson at Virginia Tech.
I'm so excited.
I do want to, before we jump into that one real quick, I just want to mention USC at Washington State. That's going to be a late night, Pac-12 after dark on Friday, so after the Husker-Illinois game. Wazoo, Luke Falk, I mean, USC hasn't looked overly impressive, and Luke Falk can tear up any defense if he wants to.
Yeah, USC's Sam Darnold. There was an article about him, how Sam Darnold needed to stop throwing interceptions. I think Darnold has 6 interceptions on the year, which is he's not taking care of the ball very well either. But I think USC has the talent. They have the skills.
Oh, yeah.
I think this game will be very similar to Stanford at USC.
Yeah, kind of close early on.
But I think USC is going to start pulling away.
I can see that. It's just, I think that could be an interesting game to watch. But jumping over to the Clemson and Virginia Tech, I think I might pull the upset on this one.
Really?
Yeah. Virginia Tech has looked very good. Again, haven't played a lot of competition apart from that early season game against West Virginia, but they've improved over the last couple weeks. And I'm telling you, my boy Josh Jackson.
Josh Jackson is so good.
And he's so young, too. It's unreal. Freshman quarterback, and he's already over 1,000. He's got 1,100 yards plus, 11 TDs, just 1 pick. Really taking care of the ball. And I think Clemson's going to have a hard time stopping him. He's a little, I'm not going to quite compare him to Lamar Jackson, and Clemson contained and held down Lamar Jackson fairly well. But Josh Jackson could cause some issues, and I think he has a few more weapons than Lamar does.
Yeah, he has a few more weapons. I think Clemson's defense is amazing. It's one of the best in football. It's probably the second best defense after Alabama. They
For sure.
are insatiable. They will swarm. They will sack your quarterback.
Yeah. And they have survived one tough road game at Louisville already. Going to Blacksburg, a little bit different story, though. I'm telling you, Justin Fuente, the Virginia Tech team, it's tough.
Clemson has struggled.
That's not a place I want to go.
They were tied 7-7 with Boston College in the fourth quarter. They're not infallible, but it's not a similar game to Louisville, Clemson. It's going to be close. Virginia Tech is not going to get blown out. They're not going to get pulled away from.
No,
but I think Clemson's going to win by a few touchdowns. I think their defense.
Few touchdowns?
Like two touchdowns.
I don't know. I think I still might pull the upset. I don't want to play in Blacksburg anytime soon.
I will trust Dabo Swinney. I will trust the Clemson defense. I think they get it done.
Okay. Any other game you're looking at this week?
What game am I looking at for sure? How about Miami Duke? Is Miami good?
Is Duke good? Duke's been very impressive, very quietly impressive. Again, that's a Friday night game. Miami on the road. I like this matchup a lot. Again, I'm going to try to switch back and forth between this one and Nebraska if I can. But Duke's looked impressive. They very balanced attack. Daniel Jones has 900 yards passing, but then Sean Wilson 350 rushing, 5 TDs for each of them. It's a very balanced attack on offense. Miami only having a couple games under their belts. I don't know. It could be a nice little game for Duke at home.
It's going to be one of those games.
They're favored
Miami,
too.
Miami, is Duke favored?
They got a 6.5 point favorite.
I actually agree with that. One, because Miami is going to be rough. They're going to be a little rusty. They haven't played in a few weeks. We saw that with Florida State too. We failed.
They got to play
that.
Toledo last week.
That's right.
But
they did.
Only
play
the couple games though. You're right.
I forget because I forget Toledo's even a football program.
Hey, Kareem Hunt, Nate. Kareem Hunt.
Okay.
Rocking the NFL.
Never fumbled in college. That's right.
But no, I think Duke and Miami will be a fun game to watch on Friday night. It's tough picking 2 upsets back to back, but
I think Duke's gonna win.
Really?
Yeah.
I like
Coach
that.
Cutcliffe. I think he has a good program. He knows he's kind of like a Kirk Ferentz, so he just knows how to put players in his system and get them going. And I think Miami is a little bit overrated. They're not that overrated, but nothing they have done so far has put me that they're any better than the teams of old.
That's fair. I think a Duke win would be pretty fathomable in this one. I could see that happening.
All right, so we covered USC, Washington State. We covered Miami Duke. We covered Clemson, Virginia Tech. Any other games? What about Northwestern, Wisconsin?
Oh.
Just a quick hitter.
Yeah, I just never know with Northwestern. I mean, at Wisconsin, too.
Wisconsin's going to kill them.
Camp Randall at home. Wisconsin should roll, but Pat Fitzgerald, never underestimate that coach. We'll see what Northwestern can do. I think they'll probably keep it close like they usually do early on, and then Wisconsin kind of rolls. They've been kind of a second-half team this year anyway, so I could see it being close early on, morning game, but I don't think Northwestern has too much of a chance up in Camp Randall.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't agree. Is Georgia going to keep rolling versus the champions of life?
Oh, yes.
Okay, yeah.
They should have no problem with Rocky Top.
We're done talking about Tennessee.
No problem with Rocky Top.
I promise you, audience, will never bring up the champions of life ever again on this show.
Yes, we probably will. Just because they'll do something.
They'll do something dumb. Butch Jones will say something stupid, and we'll have no chance to bring him up. All right, so that concludes our college football portion. We only have a couple minutes, so I thought we'd just do something fun, talk about some NFL games. Alex, I did this week 1. Why don't you do this week?
All right, Nate, we'll roll through some scores. We had the Thursday night game, Rams 41, 49ers 39. Kind of came down to the wire there.
A little bit.
Falcons and Lions, 30-26. I don't know if you saw the end of that. I was very furious.
You were?
My Lions got gypped. He was catching the ball over the goal line as he was falling down. I think that's a touchdown. They said he was touched down like it.
He was down.
The angle the camera was at an angle. It was not straight down the line, and he was catching the ball across the line. Like he was catching it in his shoulder pad, which is across the line. I think that's a touchdown. Regardless, though, Falcons come away with a win, quote unquote. The Chiefs 24-10 over the Chargers.
They're bad. Phillip Rivers looks washed out, like we need a new quarterback, which stinks. It's so bad because Phillip Rivers is the only NFL quarterback that I will roll with. I want to be one of Phil Rivers' 14 kids.
Oh, my gosh. Stop.
Sorry, Mom and Dad. I know you're listening. But
no, Chiefs, though, still on a very impressive roll.
They look good. They look like the best team in the NFL right now.
Kareem Hunt, 17 carries, 172 yards. He's looking good.
He's looking very good.
Over in London, Jags 44, Ravens 7.
Flacco got benched.
Jaguars defense coming out of nowhere. Very impressive. I don't know. They've had a couple really impressive games.
They're not a good team, mostly because Blake Bortles is not a good quarterback.
Fair.
But
he hasn't looked too bad. 4 TDs, 244 against the Ravens. Not the best defense, but still.
He plays well when ahead. He plays poorly when behind.
Fair enough. Let's keep rolling. Bills 26, Broncos 16.
Nothing interesting.
Do you think Von Miller lost him the game with that penalty, though? Did you see that?
That was some weak sauce. I saw that, and I was like, what?
Bills, I don't know. They look pretty good. I mean,
they look okay.
Broncos is a tough defense to score that many points on. So, Steelers and the Bears in overtime.
The Steelers, they just didn't look impressive. Bears had a nice 2-headed rushing game. Tariq Cohen,
yes.
Jordan Howard.
I don't know how the Bears came away with this win after that. I don't know, that goal line fumble off the
weird
block
batting
kick.
call.
Yeah, the block kick, and the guy's running it back, and he jogs at the 5-yard line. So the guy, you run through the line, man. Come on, get your touchdown.
What was that?
Regardless,
that was weird.
Bears come away with the win. Colts 31, Browns 28. Typical. Keep rolling. Vikings 34, Buccaneers 17. And this, I don't know, not a whole lot of impressive games. Redskins looked okay over the Raiders.
The Redskins did look very good. I was very, very impressed. Well, Alex, I think this is it for us.
God, these hours go so quick.
They go very fast. We talk about the Huskers for too long, but I don't know if there's ever enough time to talk about the Huskers.
Definitely not. Not with us.
No, not
we could
for sure.
We could go all night.
Well, it's been awesome. I look forward to seeing you again. We're here every Tuesday night from 7 to 8, talking about college football all through the hour. We got a lot of. I'm excited for this weekend. We got a lot of good games, and
and we get a Friday night game, one of the first for Nebraska. So
yeah, we'll definitely see how it goes. All right, for KRNU 2, I'm Nate Milbach with my host Alex Fernando. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good one, guys.
Go Big Red.